So why do you want to use a consultant? Well, it's a steep learning curve, that's why. That's one of the main reasons. Because most landowners will sell timber unless you have hundreds and hundreds of acres. You know, some guys are pretty good at selling timber. And they got a lot of acres and they do it all the time. But most of us own 40, 80 acres or whatever, and we'll do it once or twice. And, you know, as a novice, you don't really know, how much your trees are worth, what kind of value you got, what trees you're supposed to be taking out versus leaving. You really don't know any of that stuff, and it does lead to a very steep learning curve. I've seen many examples of it. Mistakes and misplaced trust can be costly. It can cost you a lot of money, and worse than that, it can destroy your property. I got called out to this guy's property. He sold this patch of timber for $30,000. Agreed on a handshake, no contract or anything, agreed on a handshake to sell his mom's property on the other side of the hill for another $30,000. Well, after all the cutting was done, he got one check for 30 grand, never saw the logger again. It had me come out to measure all these stumps to find out how much this timber was worth. And after 3 days, we're crawling through nothing but honeysuckle and blackberry, literally digging out stumps to measure these things. We decided he had $75,000 worth of timber in there. He got paid 30 grand, and this is what he got left with. What's going to grow out of this honeysuckle? With some sassafras, some early successional, short-lived, fast-growing trees. So what's a consulting forester do? Basically, he represents the landowner. He makes sure that you're taken care of. The primary goal is to achieve your objectives. When we mark your timber, we're trying to achieve your goals for your property. Secondary goals: acquire the fair market value for the timber, protect the landowner from liability, which is what our contracts do. We ensure contract compliance during the sale. We prevent timber theft with various marking and GIS technology. And then the most important thing we do is leave a diverse and valuable forest when the harvest is complete. And how do we leave a diverse and valuable forest? Well, we're out there marking these trees. We're looking at, I can't even tell you how many factors we're looking at. This is what I could come up with when I was preparing this thing. We walk up to this, every tree we walk up to, we look at it and we look at, okay, what species is this? Where is it at on the landscape? Is it on the upper slope? Is it on the lower slope? Is it down the bottoms? If you have a sycamore on the ridge top, that's a species that's off-site. You want to get rid of him. He's going to die or he's going to grow real slow. We look at the health and future vitality of the trees. Red flags, dead tips in the crown, big, large, dead branches, main leaders. Epicormic branches, those little branches that come off the main bowl, that's a sign of stress and decline. Those are the trees you want to harvest first. Longevity, black oak lives to be about 150 years old. White oak, on the other hand, 400 years old. So you want to harvest your black oak before you harvest your white oak, because they're going to die. They're going to die first. Present value versus future value. Harvesting an 18-inch, 20-inch black oak is an easy decision to make because it's going to die soon. An 18 and 20-inch white oak tree, man, if you left that for another 20 years and it turned into a veneer tree, just think how valuable that tree is going to be. To triple or quadruple in value. So the present value is a real big one. And then the stand conditions. What's under the tree you're going to harvest? Is it going to benefit something? What's going to benefit? If you're not going to benefit anything, maybe you don't want to cut it down. You got invasive species in there. You want to limit the amount of sunlight you put on that forest floor at all costs, really. So if we come up to a part in your stand where there's a lot of bush honeysuckle in there, we might not mark anything to harvest. You might leave that canopy intact until it can be taken care of. But those are just some of the things we look at. Now what does the logger look at when he comes into your woods? He looks at how big it is. That's it. That is the only factor they consider, is how big is the tree. Is it over 18 inches? Then we're going to take it. And it's just not the proper way. It results in high grading, loss of diversity, loss of value. Basically, you're harvesting your biggest and best trees all the time, and you're leaving the worst all the time. And after a couple of harvests, you're really left with a very, very low value forest.